Hi. Thank you for attending today's reading. Let's begin. I hate you. Sorry. I figured this was better than drunk texting my ex-girlfriend. End of story. Next story. I know my 7-year son is not my biological child. My ex-wife and I were having a rough time when our youngest was 6. We separated for a few months and then reconciled. A few months later she announced she was pregnant. We ended up divorcing 3 years later. Our sons are 7 and 13. My 13-year is a clone of me. My 7-year looks nothing like me. My other son or even his mom. He looks just like the guy my ex was fucking when we separated. For example, my ex and I have blue eyes and my 7-year has big brown eyes. She thinks I'm a fucking fool and that I believe he's mine, but I've known for a few years now. It doesn't really bother me. I love that boy more than life itself, but I get a kick out of watching her having to live with a lie that eats her alive because she's fearful it would destroy her family. She's damned if she does. Damned if she doesn't. Edit. It's not just about his eyes. But his mom. Me and my other son have bright blue eyes and he has brown eyes. He also the same gap in his front teeth and the head shape of the guy my ex was fucking. Plus dads just know. I was snuggling with him and it feels different than with my other kid. Not better or worse. End of story. Next story. My mom just put in her 2-week notice. And I'm crying. My mom is finally retiring after more than 40 years at the same job. Something she's talked about doing for more than a decade. It's finally happening and I'm in tears. For context, she works in a very dangerous area helping people who are at high risk for things like physical, sexual abuse, homelessness, food insecurity, etc. Over the years she's been stalked, physically assaulted, robbed on multiple occasions, at knife point and once at gunpoint, harassed and threatened by several security guards that were supposed to be there for her protection, and so much more. She's seen and dealt with things firsthand that would break most people. Things that even just hearing about in the vaguest terms keep me up at night. I've watched as her physical condition slowly deteriorated over the years. All the while the ever-changing management never showed an ounce of consideration for her advancing age. And it's finally coming to an end. Ever since I was old enough to understand what it was she did and the risk she was placing herself in, I've feared for her safety. I'm an only child and she's my only parent. And my greatest fear has always been losing her to some random act of violence. I can't really convey the sense of relief I'm feeling. And the happiness I'm feeling for her. This woman has helped literally thousands of people make a better life for themselves, all while raising and supporting me at every step of my life. I have nothing but the utmost respect and love for her, and cannot wait to spend time with her during her well-deserved retirement. She just messaged me 20 minutes ago to excitedly tell me she turned in her letter of resignation. And I just had to share with someone. End of story. Next story. Best friend slept with his sister on his 21st and is now suicidal. Trash account for obvious reasons. My friend had turned 21 2 weeks ago and we ended up having a small get-together at his house to celebrate. It wasn't big as it was just him, me, his family, and a few family friends. The night was going good, everyone was having a good time. Towards the end, I feel as though I was being a bit pushy as I convinced him to keep taking shots with me. He's a scrawny guy, so it didn't exactly help. Eventually we all got thoroughly wasted and things started to wind down. His sister was half awake on the floor, so my friend and I ended up drunkenly walking her back to her room. When we got there we tucked her in and I went to go use the restroom. When I came back my friend was passed out on the bed. It didn't seem too weird as it was a fairly big bed. Queen size. So they had some distance. I tried waking him up but all I got were a few groans out of him. At that point I was pretty hammered and was the only awake person there, so I said screw it and called a taxi. Next morning I get a text from him asking if he can stay at my place. I was confused as hell and was wondering what he wanted. He texted me saying he slept with his sister and his family found out. I copied our text to get a better idea what had happened. F equals friend. M equals me. Hey, is it okay I stay with you for a while? F. Why, what's going on? M. I don't want to talk about it. F. What do you mean? M. I don't like explaining in text. A lot of it was just shitty. F. I don't know if I can live with myself. F. Dude, just tell me. Be straight to the point. M. I ended up having sex with my sister last night when we were drunk. Honest to God, I don't remember anything. I remembered passing out on her bed. Next thing I know I woke up in my room like feeling like shit. F. Oh man. M. Does your family know? M. Yeah, I woke up to knocking on the door and my parents were yelling and screaming. I just feel like shit. F. Fucking hell, man. How did all that happen? M. IDK. I'm thinking I must have had a wet dream and it started out as touching, then one thing after another it turned into sex. F. Honest to God. I feel like a monster. F. After that he came to my apartment looking all depressed. He spent the next hour crying about how he couldn't remember what he did and saying he's not even attracted his sister. Then saying he can't control his sleep groping, which eventually built up to the sex act. From his story and his parents, it sounds like the two were too drunk to notice halfway through. There were no signs of either of them finishing their sexual acts when I asked. They likely sobered midway through, then immediately left. His family doesn't talk to him anymore and I don't know how his sister is holding up. He felt as though it was rape, but I'm not too sure what to say. I'm really the only person he's got now. I knew him since high school and honestly he's a nice guy. He never got into trouble with people. Dated a few girls and never mistreated them. So it's shocking for me to write all this. He spent the entirety of last 2 weeks just laying on my couch feeling like crap. Ended up burning a hole through his life savings ordering junk food and the occasional drink. Just a few days ago I saw he hid a rope in his bag and I confronted him about it. He didn't give a response. I ended up taking it away. Just last night he had a pretty huge mental breakdown and was repeatedly saying how he couldn't live with himself, which prompted me to write this post. At this point I don't know how I can help him. I suggested therapy but he doesn't have insurance. Plus given quarantine it might not be possible anyways. He's moving back to his school apartment in mid-September. Do you have any advice I can give him or ways to help? Thanks for reading. Update 8/21. Came back from work and saw this post just blew up. So it's only fair I update you guys. Life's funny. 2 days after this post he got a call from his parents. Apparently they miss him and his sister told what had happened. She said she at least felt some responsibility for the event too since both were drunk. Also that she forgives him, but needs a little more space before the family talks to each other again. As for my friend, he's doing fine since he received closure on this issue. No signs of personal endangerment. Obviously everything isn't back to normal but it's a start. Thanks for everyone who replied and gave their advice. End of story. That is all for today. If you want to support my automated channel, feel free to drop a like and subscribe. See you tomorrow.